Dios mío! So you want to know a little bit about La Paz? Well, we were down there for a long weekend this spring and had a ball. It was a nice getaway with some sunshine, great activities, good food. We give it 4 thumbs up. Now this video is just a sampling of our trip. I didn't go into this trip thinking I'd make a video, but we thought of it along the way, and by the time I got home with some pictures, it seemed like a good idea, especially since we took some video on that hike into Playa Balandra. So I hope you enjoy. We were 2 couples on this trip. We booked a Verbo in town, easy walk to the waterfront and close to the town square at the La Paz Cathedral. The house was nicely set up and in an artsy neighborhood with an easy walk down to the waterfront, down to the Malecón, and we found a bunch of great murals, lots of local color on the way. We found a little cafe on the beach, had a nice drink in a decorated skull mug, and then found more art down along the waterfront walk on the Malecón, which is lively and busy, especially in the evenings when everyone seems to be out taking a stroll. Now you can rent bicycles down along the Malecón, and we did. We took a nice long ride up to the north of town and grabbed lunch out at the marina. There are bike lanes all the way up and back. Just had a lovely time navigating the Malecón there in La Paz. The next day, we went out diving. We took a trip up to Isla Espiritu Santo with a couple of stops to dive with sea lions, of all things, and had a nice lunch on the beach. Our guide was Dive in La Paz. It's the name of the dive shop, just called Dive in La Paz. And on the boat ride up, we encountered this huge pod of dolphins. Enjoyed traveling with them for a few moments. And we got to see the mask, or La Masque, which is short for the Mask of the Holy Spirit, but it looks a little more devilish to me. Anyway, a nice dive trip. Dinner that night was at Mariscos Los Laureles, overlooking the Malecón and the setting sun. Very nice way to wrap up a day. But even nicer was frozen fruit desserts on the way home. On our last day in town, we decided to do a beach day. We grabbed coffee and a roll on the Malecón, headed out to find a sunny beach like this. Only we thought we were going to be snorkeling and swimming, but it was March and the wind had kicked up. And as you can see, we spent our day instead trying to keep our hats on and searching for a sheltered place to sit. One of the most popular, and some say the most beautiful beach in the area, is Playa Balandra, further up north, and we drove up to see if we could get a look at this wonderful place. But of course, they have limits on parking, and with COVID in effect, they had a strict limit on the number of visitors. So we ran into a roadblock with a policeman at the head of the drive into the beach, and were not allowed in. The guard was nice enough to point us to the next beach up the road, El Tecolote, and on the way to El Tecolote, we noticed several cars parked in basically a field and an old road climbing the hill beyond in the direction of the Playa Balandra. And so we quickly hatched a plan that we'd climb that hill, get a view of the beach, and maybe even hike all the way in. Could this be the way to avoid the roadblock and still get to the famous Playa Balandra? Well, starting up, we quickly realized that the steady wind was cool and biting us through our summer clothes, but we also had a fix for that. We wrapped our nice beach towels around us like serapes, and turned out to be the answer. We headed uphill. The way was rocky and rough, and a steady uphill climb. We were in tennis shoes, water shoes, and sandals. Not ideal, but we persevered. About 5 minutes later, we were looking back at the parking lot and Playa El Tecolote.
You see, we are now on the summit of Balandera, supposedly the most beautiful beach in Baja.
So for the record, this is not Playa Balandra, and we weren't at the summit, but we meant well there with that narration, and it was a beautiful view. This beach, actually, you could probably scramble down to it. I'm sure there were a couple of trails, but we didn't give it a try. A mission indeed. Well, we continued on, and in 10 or maybe 15 more minutes, we started to get glimpses of our goal, the elusive Playa Balandra. Stumbling across the rocks and through the sticker bushes, we finally reached a good viewing spot. Well, as you can tell, we did try to get some live reporting on scene, and what my wife is trying to describe is her excitement at having this vista laid out before her of Playa Balandra, bright blue. The tide is out, so in this spot you can see where there's so much sand. The water's extremely shallow in that bay, I guess. And so we take one last long, loving look at Playa Balandra that we put out so much effort to see, take a rest on a warm rock, and then turn around and head back for home. Back down the hill, picking our way across the rocks. As it turns out, getting to the ridge back there for the view was one of the peak experiences of our trip. Ah, pardon the pun. So that evening, we took a walk around the Zocalo, the public square, enjoyed the fountain, the colored lights. The cathedral lit up is the centerpiece of the town. Managed to walk by the museum and waved goodbye to the setting sun. And we're waving goodbye to La Paz. We're glad you could come along with us on this trip.